Tonight, you will lie down in the dark and attempt something genuinely strange. You'll try to fall unconscious all at once and stay that way for 8 hours. One long, unbroken block of sleep, carrying you from night straight through to morning. It feels like the most natural thing in the world. It may not be, because for almost all of human history, nobody slept the way you're about to. No mattress, no clock, no alarm, and strangely, no single unbroken night. Over the next few minutes, we're going to walk slowly back through that lost history. And if you find it as strange as I do, a quiet like helps it travel. Let's begin somewhere familiar, a small farmhouse in England, 400 years ago. There is no electricity here, no street light, no glowing screen anywhere on Earth. When the sun goes down, a darkness falls that you have probably never truly seen. Candles exist, but they are costly, and a working family does not waste them. So as the last light drains from the sky, the household simply goes to bed. They climb beneath heavy wool, the fire banked low, and they fall asleep. But here is the part that sounds wrong to a modern ear. They are not lying down for 8 straight hours. They never were. After 3 or 4 hours, deep in the night, their bodies begin to stir. And quietly, naturally, with no alarm at all, the whole household wakes up. They called this the first sleep, and it was only ever half the night. For a long time, historians had no idea that people once slept like this. Then a historian named Roger Eckert went digging through very old documents.
Not medical studies, diaries, court records, letters, poems, and prayer books. And buried inside them, again and again, he found 2 odd little phrases. A first sleep, and after it, a second sleep, as if everyone simply understood. He has now gathered more than 2,000 of these scattered references. They stretch across a dozen languages and run back through the centuries. The Romans wrote of the primus somnus. Even the ancient Greeks knew it. For thousands of years, the human night came quietly split clean in 2. So picture yourself there, waking around midnight in that silent, sleeping house. There is no anxiety in it. No panic, no sense that something is wrong. This waking is expected. It even had a name. Some simply called it the watch. Between the first sleep and the second lay an hour or more of calm wakefulness. And people filled that quiet hour with nearly everything you can imagine. Some stayed in bed, lying in the warm dark, just thinking and drifting. Many turned over the dreams they just surfaced from, still vivid in their minds. Some rose to stir the fire, lay on another log, or check the animals. Some prayed, guided by little manuals written especially for the middle of the night. Some worked quietly. Some, the records tell us, slipped next door to talk. Couples reached for each other in the dark. This was a common hour for love. One French doctor even recommended it as the best time to conceive a child. There's a tenderness to it. A whole society awake together in the small hours. Nobody was checking a phone because the nearest glowing screen was centuries away. Then, slowly, with no effort at all, the body would grow heavy again. They slay down into the second sleep and rode it gently all the way to dawn. Waking at 3 in the morning was not a disorder to them. It was simply the night. Now, you might be thinking, that's just an old story. Where is the proof? For that, we leave the farmhouse and step into a laboratory in the 1990s. A psychiatrist named Thomas Weir wanted to test one simple, radical question. What happens to modern people if you take away artificial light completely? He gave volunteers 14 hours of darkness every single night for a month. No lamps, no screens, just the long, dark nights our ancestors actually lived in. At first, the men slept enormously, near 11 hours, paying off a hidden debt.
But after a few weeks, something remarkable settled into place on its own. Their sleep quietly broke into two halves, with a gap of wakefulness between. Around 4 hours of sleep, then a wakeful pause, then 4 hours more. Without being told to, modern bodies had rediscovered the first and second sleep. And that waking pause was not restless or anxious in the slightest. Their hormones shifted, prolactin rising, the way it does in calm, meditative states. Ware described it as a kind of deep peace we have almost entirely forgotten. So if the body still wants 2 sleeps, the real question becomes, what changed? The answer, more than anything else, is light. Cheap, abundant, artificial light. For most of history, the dark set a hard ceiling on the human day. When night fell, the world effectively closed, and there was little to do but rest.
Then came brighter lamps, then gas, then the electric bulb, and the night cracked open. Suddenly the evening filled up with work, reading, shops, and conversation. People began going to bed later and later, eating slowly into the first sleep. As bedtime crept forward, the long 2-part night was gradually squeezed shut. The wakeful hour in the middle was the very first thing to disappear. Then the 2 sleeps fused into the single solid block we now call a good night. Within just a few generations, the old pattern was forgotten completely. We didn't only change how we slept, we forgot the old way had ever existed. But here the story takes a turn that genuinely surprised the scientists. Because there's a hole in the cozy idea that we've all simply lost our natural sleep. If 2 sleeps were truly ancient, the oldest ways of living should still show them. So researchers went to people who, even today, live without electricity at all. They studied 3 groups on 2 continents, far from any city grid. The Hadza in Tanzania, the San in Namibia, and the Tsimane in Bolivia. All of them still hunt, gather, or farm by hand, much as humans long did. Scientists fitted 94 people with watch-like sensors to record every night. Over 1,000 nights of real, undisturbed human sleep were quietly logged. And the results, published in 2015, complicated the beautiful story we just built. These groups did not split their nights into a first and a second sleep. They slept, for the most part, in one single block, much like you do. Stranger still, they slept less than we assume, only about 6.5 hours. They didn't lie down at dusk. They stayed up for hours, talking around the fire. And they almost never napped, despite all our myths about a natural siesta. So who is right? The dusty old diaries, or the sensors on living wrists? The honest answer is that scholars still argue about this, and that's worth admitting. The likeliest truth is that there was never one single way that all humans slept. Near the equator, nights are short and even all year, and sleep stays in one piece. But in Europe's long, dark winters, the night can stretch 14 hours or more. And in nights that long, sleep finally has room to break gently into 2. Those same sensors revealed something else that overturns another quiet assumption. We tend to believe it's darkness that puts us to sleep. Often, it isn't. These groups did not drop off the moment the sun went down at all. They fell asleep later, as the night air finally began to cool around them. And they woke almost every morning at the coldest moment just before dawn. Their sleep followed the falling temperature far more closely than the fading light. That same switch is buried inside you, too, older than any bedtime routine. To fall asleep, your core temperature actually has to drop by about 1 degree. It's why a cool, dark room pulls you under faster than a warm, stuffy one. Which brings us to the quiet invention that kept that cold from killing them: the bed. Forget the cartoon of a caveman sprawled asleep on bare, cold stone. Sleeping directly on the ground steals your body heat and wrecks your rest. Do it through a cold night often enough, and it can quietly kill you. So our ancestors built something to lift themselves up off that deadly floor. In a South African cave called Sibudu, archaeologists found the proof of it. Layers of plant bedding, compacted grasses, rushes, and sedges, all gathered by hand, carefully piled into soft, thick mats to sleep, to sit, and to work upon. These particular beds are roughly 77,000 years old. And then comes the detail that raises the hair on the back of your neck. Laid across the top were leaves from one specific tree, the river wild quince. Its leaves carry natural chemicals that kill and repel biting insects. 77,000 years ago, someone chose exactly those leaves on purpose. They had, in effect, invented insect-proofed bedding long before recorded history. And when a mat grew old and dirty, they burned it to destroy the pests. That is a made bed and a cleaned room, tens of thousands of years before farming. At another site, Border Cave, this same story reaches back even further still. There, grass bedding was laid on ash, which itself keeps crawling insects away. That bedding may be 200,000 years old, far older than farming, art, or almost anything else we made. But even the finest bed could not on its own carry you safely through the dark. So they did what kept humans alive for 1,000,000 years. They slept together. Bodies pressed close for warmth, the young and the old tucked into the middle. A fire burned beside them, holding back the cold and the darkness at once. Its smoke thinned the insects. Its glow unsettled whatever watched from the trees. And in later ages, sleeping near them lay the Fust dogs, ears up, listening. Because we have to be honest about what the night truly was back then. For your ancestors, sleep was the single most dangerous thing they did each day. Lying unconscious in the dark, you are blind, deaf, and very nearly defenseless. A whole camp asleep at once is simply a meal waiting to be found. So evolution seems to have arranged a solution, and you can still feel it working. Researchers watched a group of Hadza sleepers across 20 full nights. They overlaid everyone's sleep, hunting for moments when the whole camp was under. Across all 20 of those nights, they found only 18 such minutes, total. For almost the entire night, somebody in that camp was always awake. Yet nobody set a guard, and nobody ever volunteered to take a shift. It happened all by itself, because people of different ages run on different clocks. The young stay up late, the old grow light sleeping and wake before the dawn. Layer those rhythms across one family, and the night quietly guards itself. Scientists call it the sentinel hypothesis, and give it a gentler nickname too, the poorly sleeping grandparent effect. Restless elders as the camp's natural night watch. Your grandmother waking at 5 in the morning may be a gift evolution kept. Her light, early sleep once meant the family survived its most vulnerable hours, which means the broken sleep you complain about may be ancient, useful, and deeply human. So let's come back now, slowly, to you, lying there in the dark tonight. Think of the last time you jolted awake at 3 in the morning. You stared at the ceiling, certain that something inside you had gone wrong.
But after everything we've just seen, look at that moment one more time. That wakeful hour is not a malfunction. It may be an inheritance. For most of human history, the middle of the night was a place people lived in, a place to pray, to think, to love, or to lie still and dream. Your body still leans toward the cool air, still wants to huddle close for warmth. Some restless part of you still wakes to listen, the way an elder once did. You are not a broken sleeper. You're running ancient instincts on a modern night. And the cruel little joke is the very thing we reach for at 3 a.m. That glowing phone is the direct descendant of the light that erased the old night. The people who slept by those ancient fires were far more like you than you'd think. They feared the dark, loved in the night, and woke at 3.
exactly like you. So tonight, if you wake in the dark, try not to panic and don't reach for the light. Just lie still for a moment, breathe, and meet the oldest part of being human. If this changed the way you see your own nights, subscribing keeps these stories coming, because there are 1,000 more of these small, forgotten human histories to tell. And when our ancestors couldn't sleep, many of them reached for something to smoke. That story, when humans first started smoking, is waiting for you right now.